What's going on?
What's up, my co-host with the mostest?
Nothing
I'm
much,
Bobby
man.
Bacala.
And I'm shirtless Mike, and this is Gangsters and Cigars.
Good evening to my paisans and gomaras. This is going to be the first series in a probably 3 to 4 series in everything death. We're going to cover everything from serial killers to gangland killings, to everything that goes boom. We're going to have a special guest on. We're going to talk about car bombing from an expert in the field of everything that goes boom. Our guest tonight is out on a current call. Unfortunately, he can't be with us. So, Mike, if we would, let's tell everybody what cigar we're smoking tonight, do a little critique, and then we'll get into our first case.
Yeah,
You're up.
so I'm smoking. Just for context for everybody watching. So we're both smoking something different. So I'm smoking the Don Pepe Garcia original that I picked up right before I left for work, and then it's an excellent cigar. Got a lot of pepper in it. I love pepper in a cigar, so it's just one of those cigars that I'm gonna love it. Period. So I'm enjoying this cigar. I just lit it up, and I'm gonna enjoy this, throughout the broadcast tonight. What you smoking, Bobby?
So, a good friend of mine, George Gonzalez, we call him Gonzo. He was good enough to give me a Hoya Boricua, which is a Puerto Rican cigar. If everybody can see it, let me get it in there. There you go.
Yeah, you gotta go the other way just a little bit. Yeah, I could see it
Got
now.
it. It's from his hometown in Rincon in Puerto Rico. I just lit it up. It is Puerto Rican seed. It also has Dominican filler, and the outside is Sumatra, which is nice. I love a nice Sumatra cigar.
Oh
Let me
yeah,
grab a couple of puffs. It's a medium bodied cigar, has a woody flavor, getting a little pepper to it,
pepper,
uh,
pepper. I love that pepper.
little pepper bite, much like what you're smoking in the My Father's line as well.
Hmm.
I like the cigar. I've never had a cigar from Puerto Rico before. George said he was going to treat me the other night. We were out together, and it's definitely a treat. I like it. I do it again. I'll have to hit George up and see if he can get us some more, so this way here you can try it as well. I think
Oh
you
yeah,
would
most
enjoy it as
definitely,
well. Yeah,
most definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I've smoked different cigars. You don't smoke a lot of Puerto Rican tobacco, but I knew it existed because I got some Puerto Rican brothers that have told me about it. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, I like the Sumatra wrapper. You can definitely tell that it's Dominican. I don't know if I can say, well, I know this is Puerto Rican seed or not because I couldn't tell you. But
Yeah.
you can definitely taste that Dominican wrapper, and then the blended with the Sumatra outer, and it's good. I mean, I definitely would do it again. George, thank you again. I appreciate it. Good to see you shirtless, Mike. I know we've usually
Yes.
eat smoke rings together. I know tonight we had some other plans and it didn't
Yep.
work out, so we're both remote. But now
Yep.
everybody can see on our podcast why the hell we call you shirtless, Mike.
Exactly. This is the set of my show, Herf Zone Live, which whenever we do it remote, I have it. We basically mostly do it in person, but whenever we're remote, I'm sitting in the same place, and this is the spot. I finally showed the old man how to get on the virtual side of things, and I told him it was easy, that even he could do it. So
You
he
did, you
did.
did.
He
So
did.
I'm outside on the porch because not allowed to smoke inside.
Yeah. I can't either.
Watching the
I'm in the
oh,
garage. So it looks like I'm inside.
well, there you go. There you go. The only thing in my garage is my bike, And, there's not too much more room besides that. So I figured, you know what? I'll go out on the patio, smoke outside. I can't get in trouble. Thus, that's where I'm at. I don't have
Absolutely.
Dora on tonight. I've got on my Scally only because it's easy to have my headset on. Um,
Yeah.
I looked like Kazoo from the Flintstones with the fedora on, so I had to take it off. So anyway, getting back into what's going to be our short series on everything death, and I've been putting out little teasers saying he's coming, the Grim Reaper. Then I think I just put like an 1800s hearse that was just on about an hour or two ago. But this is absolutely going to be intriguing, the series. We are going to talk about gangsters and homicides and everything death, gangster related. Catching up to that, though, we're going to go on some famous cases. This case in particular tonight we're going to talk about is one of the famous cases from Florida. And I happen to be involved in the case as well. So, that being said, tonight we're going to talk about the Gainesville Ripper. Now, the Gainesville Ripper is the story of Danny Rollins, who went on a killing spree in or about the campus of the University of Florida. For all of you that are not from Florida, University of Florida is one of the best schools in Florida. Go Gators! And it also was during a time that rivaled Ted Bundy. For you all that know your serial killers, Ted Bundy killed up in the area of Florida State.
Mm.
And it's still that whole university atmosphere. Still had people on edge. Matter of fact, it closed the University of Florida in 1990. It was closed down. You had more law enforcement than you knew what to do about it. So we're going to talk about Danny Rollins, 1990, August to be exact, of when he started his killing spree in Florida. Florida wasn't the only place, but we're going to talk about Florida and the areas that surrounded University of Florida.
All right, cool. Looking forward to
So,
hearing more.
all right, 1990, early morning hours. Danny Rollins breaks into an apartment located about maybe a mile off of campus. Majority of the apartment complex was housed by University of Florida students. He gets inside. There's two females that are living. They're roommates. One is 17 years old, Sonia Lawson, and Christina Powell. His MO was to usually go through the back sliding glass door. As you know, with all of these apartments, those sliding
Hmm.
glass doors in the back are very easily to get into.
Yep.
Most of the houses, the apartments that he broke into, were from sliding glass door. Now, backtrack. He was homeless. He was living in a wooded area located near the areas where the homicides took place. So he knew the area well. He was familiar with the area. So when he committed his crimes, he went right back to where he was staying in a tent in the woods, located either behind or near these apartment complexes. So he breaks in. Powell is found laying on the couch asleep downstairs. Sonia's upstairs. She's asleep in her bed. He leaves Powell alone first downstairs, goes into the bedroom where he sees Sonia fast asleep. Once he's in the bedroom, he quickly takes duct tape. He did this on all his other homicides. He tapes the mouth of Sonia so she can't scream and Powell can't hear her scream. Once he's inside the bedroom, he binds her wrists as well. He then takes out a knife, threatens her, stabs her multiple times, rapes her during the actual assault. Kills her, she's raped. He lays alongside her body, spends some time with her. Then he goes back downstairs. Before going back downstairs, he retreats back to the bedroom. He cuts off one of her nipples. He places the nipple in her pocket, and he goes downstairs now to confront Miss Power. Now remember, Sonia was 17 years old. Now he's downstairs. Gets downstairs. He stabs her repeatedly, kills her, rapes her, and heads outside. Now, in some other incidents, he'd actually stay within the apartment, make himself something to eat, make himself something to drink, take a shower. He sometimes would sleep with one of his victims, and then he would leave.
Oh wow,
So
that's odd.
this is our first case. To say bizarre is an understatement. He was bizarre from a young age. He started becoming violent at the age of 14, which led up to the murders. He also killed a family in Louisiana, but we'll get into that. That was after the homicides in Gainesville. So now he is back in the wooded area and picking his next victim or victim. So he goes out, he goes back into the wooded area, and he states this: I could see her in a bad position. And I went around, and that's why I went inside. When he's arrested, he does a full confession. We'll get into that also. But he picks his victim because he's looking through the sliding glass door and he sees the first girl asleep. So he knows she was in a bad position. He knew that all he had to do was make entry. She was already sleeping. And then if she was startled, he would have probably murdered her first before going upstairs. So he goes up, he's done, takes his trophy, and now we're going to talk about the next victim. His next victim was an 18-year-old girl, Krista Hoyt. Now, this one sticks out to me the most, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Takes a screwdriver. How does he get in? Come on, shirtless Mike.
To the back door.
Right, through the screen door, right? Takes the screwdriver, pops the screen door. He goes in. Hoyt wasn't home. She has yet to come home yet. It's an empty house. Goes and makes himself something to eat. Takes a shower prior to. Has a drink, and he's chilling in bed. Poor Miss Hoyt comes home. Once she gets home, first thing he does, subdue her mouth with duct tape, binds her wrists. Then he starts raping her. As he had with Powell prior to, he put Hoyt face down, began to rape her. As he was raping her, in his testimony after the fact, he tells her exactly what he's going to do and how she's going to feel the knife first enter her solar plex and how she'll feel a warmth come over her. And when that warmth comes over, he'll go deeper and deeper until she's gone. So he's explaining this to her as he's raping her and putting the knife into her solar plexus. All right.
Yeah,
Danny
that's
does the same
definitely
thing.
twisted.
Oh, man. You know, and I'll get to my opinion in a minute on that. So there's a difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. Danny was a psychopath. We'll talk about what psychopaths are later on. Cuts off her nipples too, in his pocket. What does he do from there? Heads back, and he goes to his campsite. Always retreats to his campsite. So when we're looking to do a profile on serial killers, the majority of the time, a serial killer will kill in an area that is known to him or her, right? We had another famous serial killer in Florida as well. I'm going to save her for another episode.
Yeah.
So he's familiar with the area, he's familiar with his surroundings, he knows how long it's going to take him to get back to his campsite. So now we're two homicides underway. In the meantime, the Gainesville Police Department have stopped him because remember, he's homeless, he's indigent, which means he doesn't have any money,
Yeah.
and they had stopped him for trespassing before. So in 1990, what they did was a field contact card, which means that if I stopped somebody, I'm going to do and place down all his information, goes into a data bank in case we have something that comes up in the future. Nobody's put two and two together yet.
Mm.
Now, during that time, I was assigned to homicide in a department about 2.5 hours south. So as the homicide progressed, they put a task force together of lead investigator, homicide investigators from the state of Florida. I was picked to be on that task force and part of this investigation. All right, next. So I told you before, and I've been waiting. I told you that I was going to wait and tell you why this one here hit me the most.
Mhm.
Now, I told you he cut off a nipple, put it in his pocket, but that wasn't enough. Now he wants to make a statement for anybody who was going to find this poor young girl. He takes out his knife and decapitates her. All right, so you're thinking, you know what? The motherfucker's sick enough. After everything he just did, he decapitates her. But oh no. Takes her head and he places it on her bookshelf in her bedroom.
Oh wow.
Next to the bookshelf in the bedroom, she had a mirror. He takes the mirror and he turns it towards the decapitated head of his victim. So if you were entering in her bedroom, whoever that may be, when you open the door, she's looking at you in the mirror.
Oh Maron.
So, exactly. So that was, that hit me the hardest. Now, I've seen some really gruesome homicides before. And like we spoke in the other episode, we spoke about serial killers. I only touched on it and spoke about positioning of bodies, if you recall.
Yep.
Uh, we may have offended one or two people. I apologize. This is
Just
live.
one, but it's okay. I'm not gonna say any names, but we both know.
Exactly. And, this is life. This is what I've dealt with. There are demons amongst us, there is pure evil amongst us. This is what he did. And it just left that impact. The girl was so young, the head was placed where he wanted to get that scare factor. Now, one of the most popular series of movies is Scream.
Mhm.
Scream is loosely based on Danny Rollins as the Gainesville Ripper. And as a matter of fact, in the movie, they refer to the movie being called Stab. If you remember, that's like in like the first episode. And
Yeah.
Stab is exactly what he did, right? Stabbed all his victims. No, he didn't make a phone call before he came in, and he didn't wear a mask
Yeah.
because
That's all the theatrics.
exactly. But this is who they used as their background to create the horror series known as Scream. Just a little bit of movie trivia. Let me light my cigar. Now, you would think with all of the great cigarette lighters that I've bought from smoke rings that I wouldn't be using something that's $1.99.
You know what? I got all kind. I got lighters up the wazoo. Actually, I had to pick up a couple of big lighters because I can't bring a torch on the plane.
Now,
So but you can bring a bic. So I'm gonna travel with bics, and then I might buy something cheap at a cigar shop or whatever, and then just donate it after the fact. But uh, yeah.
it's funny. For these episodes, I went out and I found a torch lighter, and it's a skull.
Uh
And
huh.
naturally, do I bring it out here to light my cigar? No. I forgot it in the house along with everything else. But all right. So we have those three homicides. University of Florida goes crazy. City of Gainesville goes crazy. Parents going up, taking their kids home. They're going up, they're dropping off firearms. So my captain at the time when I was in homicide had a daughter that was currently going to University of Gainesville. He goes up there and he brings a firearm for her, brings a firearm for her roommate. They didn't want to come back. Although campuses were closed until they had to find some type of resolve. So before I go further, I'm going to tell you what happens. Danny Rollins is not done yet by any means. But with the stress on the police department, with the continued stress from administration, from University of Gainesville, University of Florida, Gainesville, and with the media, constant barragement every night of the news, every night of the news. Unfortunately, law enforcement is forced to find somebody to make an arrest because the public needs to feel safe. You with me so far?
I am.
This young kid in the area, I'll use an Italian term. The kid was bazzo. He
Mhm.
wasn't wrapped too tight.
Yeah.
So the kid lived in the area. He was seen in the area on a couple of occasions. He lived with his grandmother. So he gave his grandmother a beating one night. And they came and they arrested him for domestic violence. Then they said, this is the guy. The kid who, remember, he's Duzulbats.
Yeah.
He confesses. A lot of people have confessed to murders that they've never committed. Kid confesses to the murder. All right, well, kid's in jail. Confessed to the murders. Rollins not watching the news, not watching the TV. He doesn't have a 75-inch screen in his tent. And besides the fact, he can give two fucks because he's going to feed that beast, that monster, to carry on.
Mhm.
Now, serial killers could be so the difference between mass killing and serial killing. Mass killing is multiple killings at once.
Yeah.
The Pulse killings, Columbine, your church killings. That's a mass killing. serial killings can be over a period of time. Now, it doesn't have
Hmm.
to be over years, it could be over weeks or months. Same pattern of the homicides is going to bring you to what we profile as a serial killer. All right. So the murders now are getting attention all through the United States on every campus in the United States. They don't know if it's related to higher education or just University of Florida. Again, media is going crazy. There's a frenzy. You can't keep a firearm on a shelf in a gun store or a pawn shop in Alachua County, which is where Gainesville is located,
Hmm.
Ocala. You can't find anything.
And just to clear the air, he said pawn shop. It's that New York accent. It's not like he said porn shop.
All right. First off, let me set this straight. I've been in Florida since I'm 17. Had to go back to New York when I did some contract work after I retired, and I got my accent back. I don't hear an accent, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I know how to translate. I was just translating for the people.
I I, I appreciate it,
I got a lot of New York brothers, so
and for our friends south of the Mason Dixon, I apologize for the accent. I thought it was gone. Apparently, I'm mistaken. But if you want to hear an accent, you got to hear my wife talk. She's from Maine, outside of Boston, and Jesus Christ, I thought my accent was bad. And so now we're on Tracy Pauls. Tracy Pauls, 23 years old, and a boyfriend, Tabota, both in the house. Let me add that he played ball for University of Florida, and he wasn't a slouch. Danny Rollins was 6'2", weighed out about 300, and he was a pretty massive guy. He was not a slouch either. Manny Tabota's in one bedroom. Tracy is in another bedroom. They're roommates. He finds Tabota asleep, the male football player. He's the one in the bedrooms. The two get into a struggle, and the kid is trying to whip his ass. Unfortunately, he's overpowered by Rollins. So, besides being a big guy, Danny Rollins, he had that strength and that anger and that pure evil that it didn't matter how big this kid was, that he overpowered him. He ultimately kills him, right? Stabs him, kills him. Now, Paula hears the commotion. She's coming downstairs. She comes downstairs. She goes to check on a roommate. She spots Danny, quickly returns, and retreats to her bedroom. Gets in the bedroom. She attempts to barricade herself in the bedroom. I didn't say salute there either. Salute.
salute.
Barricades the bedroom. Again, Danny Rollins is a powerful guy. Broke through the door. What is the first two things he does? Takes her mouth, binds her wrists, cut off her clothing, and raped her before turning her over, face down, because this is where he liked them. Stabbed her repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly through the lungs, and then ultimately through her diaphragm. Last finishing blow through her back into her heart. Now you got to understand. First, it was a hunting knife, but you have to understand the power that it takes to go through basically one side of the human anatomy almost through the front.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a sword. He had a hunting knife. So now she's deceased. He rapes her another 3 times. Post-mortem, right? So she's dead. Rapes her
Hmm.
3 more. Goes downstairs. And he thinks he's going to get caught. And he flees. Goes back to his tent in the woods. When police arrive the next morning, they find Paul's on the living room floor, and Tabota is still, naturally, is in his bedroom. Law enforcement going off the deep end. Here's where I come in. They decide we have to put a task force together of other investigators to start brainstorming. So I remember flying up to the FBI crime lab in Washington, D.C. on another homicide. As he, or I should say, as I'm up in Washington, D.C., I'm delivering a single hair to link a suspect and a victim. And I'm standing there talking to the FBI agents, and we're discussing the case. Oh, you're from Florida, you're not too far from Gainesville. I said, yeah, I just got put on the case. We start talking about evidence that has been submitted to the FBI. So not only was evidence submitted to Florida Department of Law Enforcement Crime Lab in Orlando, it's also being submitted to the FBI crime lab out of DC. So this was truly was a effort of state, local, and federal law enforcement. On August 25th, law enforcement respond to a bank robbery. Bank robbery is about a half a mile away. Half a mile away from Krista Hoyt's apartment. Come to find out that a gun at the campsite, but didn't connect their suspect to the murders, was used in the bank robbery. The campsite was known for indigents, homeless, that were also involved in criminal activities, mainly burglaries, thefts, thefts out of the stores, and serial killings and bank robberies.
Hmm.
All right, get back to one of the other ones. So Ed Humphrey, like I told you, was the kid who was bots. He's arrested for the crimes. Um, After committing a robbery to the Winn Dixon. And then again, they somewhat loosely link him to all of the bullshit. He beat his grandmother, and they decide that he's the one who did it because he says, yeah, I'm involved. When they question him, he says, yeah, I'm involved, and I'm the one who committed it.
This is definitely interesting stuff. I'm learning a lot. I didn't really know a whole lot before, we started talking about it, and I'm just sitting back learning right now.
So it wasn't that he only killed University of Florida students. One of his victims was a police dispatcher. Now, the young girl in her early 20s breaks in through the back sliding glass door. She's living in the same apartments as your original victim.
Mhm.
Breaks through sliding glass door, goes in, rapes her, kills her the exact same way. Now we fast forward. Then they link a homicide of a family, Danny Rollins, in Louisiana. Same MO. He's living in the wooded area. He's a transient, so on and so forth. Through the task force, our task force, through now you got literally hundreds of thousands of tips coming in. He's picked up, interviewed. Make a long story short, he confesses. He confesses in great detail, and in such detail that the more you ask him about the cases, the more the chest had filled up with pride, because this is his work of art.
Wow.
This is his doing. And he goes through the most gruesome of steps with investigators. And he boasts how he tells his victims, for the exception of the football player, how he tells his victims exactly what he's going to do with them, to them, and kept his collection of nipples at his campsite. They later find evidence and everything at the campsite, some other areas that will ultimately link him to the case. Humphrey, the kid that they arrested, because I think they were overzealous at the time, because they had to make an arrest and quell the anxieties of the citizens of Gainesville. Naturally, he gets released. I don't even think that he's charged with the robbery. Dixie, I think that those cases were dropped. Naturally, the lawsuit is filed after the fact. I couldn't tell you what happened. I didn't follow it after that. So when he is going to be put to death, and I'll tell you when exactly he is put to death. He plays a tape and wants to hear these songs that motivated him from childhood that led to his murders, crime spree, whatever the case may be. But he listened to those songs prior to being executed, one of his last wishes. So, one of these songs that he starts singing to investigators, and I'll read it to you only because I had it saved in my notes, was jingling spurs rolling into town. Old black stallion, you bring a grim reaper. Dressed in snake hide, worn black leather, mystery rider, what's your name? You're a killer, a drifter gone insane. Remember, I told you that he was a drifter,
Yeah.
and he was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Mystery rider, what's your name? You're a rebel, no one can tame. He was singing this over and over and over. Sang it on the way to being executed. So he's charged 5 counts, capital homicide. 5. That was in, I think, November of 1991, if I'm not mistaken, when he was formally charged. Before he could ask or answer to those charges, however, he was convicted for federal bank robbery. Remember now, I told you that. He was linked to that bank robbery. They found the gun in the woods and the same duct tape he used on the homicides.
Yeah.
But I mean, what the hell is a bank robbery when you got 5 murders under your belt?
Exactly.
Correct. Exactly. He goes to Florida State Prison. Florida State Prison is where we say that old Sparky was housed, the electric chair.
Mhm.
That's where he gets sent. Danny Ronalds' confession. I want to get over exactly. Let's see the recording I told you about. I'm only looking at my notes. Be patient. It was a huge case.
But at least I know now, why they called him the Grim Reaper because of the lyrics to the song.
Absolutely. The only thing I couldn't remember, and the reason why I was scrolling through my notes is so remember when I told you he was convicted, right? 91?
Yep.
He was put to death October 25th, 2006.
Well, they let him live for quite a while.
Yeah, and actually, it wasn't as long as a lot of people on death row have lived without being executed.
Yeah.
Uh, we here in Florida we like to take you out. So he was executed by lethal injection in 2006. He is known as the Grim Reaper. He is known as the Gainesville Ripper. He's known as Stab. He's known as Scream to the movie world. So let's backtrack a second. Let's talk about profiling serial killers as a whole. I touched on it, and I just want to touch on it again. So the FBI has actually a profiling unit, and so does Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I know the agencies have them as well. We've always relied on the FBI when we had serial killings. Now, serial killings can go back years and years. They can stop and they can start up again. So your
Hmm.
serial killer can do X amount of homicides, stop for a few years. What happens is that hunger comes back, and then a few years later, he starts or she starts committing homicides again. And now you have to start getting the puzzle out and trying to put the pieces of the puzzle even years back together. So let's say we have no suspects. We sometimes call in the FBI profiling unit. They'll send a team in, we'll sit down, and we'll put out our entire case. Here's what we have. Here's what we have evidence wise. Here's why we think it's one individual committing the acts. Here's why we think it's a serial killer. Here's the connections. Now, the FBI profiling unit, what they'll do is start finding all of the denominators in that case. One of the big things is, does the killer know his or her area? Well, we just spoke about Danny Rollins. I told you what a small proximity he was in
Yep.
to the killings. Is he comfortable or is she comfortable in his or her surroundings? Does he blend in? Danny Rollins? Yeah. He was a drifter. They had misdemeanor cases on him in the past, minor thefts, so on and so forth. They knew the guy lived in the woods. For whatever reason, they didn't put two and two together. So now we have, is he or she familiar with the area? Is he or she comfortable in the area? Is he or she from the area? Is that individual from this geographic location? What I mean by that is it could be, are they from Florida? Do they know Florida? Or are they a transplant? Don't really know Florida, but they know their surroundings. So now we go and we get our geography back to their surroundings and their familiarity with the surroundings. Now we want to look at how the homicides are similar or different, and how can we connect it all to the same individual. All right, I'm going to throw out a few things. Before I start, Mike, you get any questions?
No, not really any questions, but it's talking about profiling and them knowing the area. Obviously, if they know the area well enough, they're able to really think things out. Is one thing that I observed with it, and if they're not from the area, I mean, it's too easy to get caught slipping.
Yes, because what you have to understand is they're going to have to find the time and opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, not only do you have your time and your opportunity to commit the crime, now you need to be able to retreat and go
Hmm.
back blending with the community and the surroundings. So, yes,
Yeah.
observation on your end, yes, 100% correct. So now we're going to find what binds him or her to all of the homicides. So, type of weapon, the way he or she committed the homicide. Let's say they use a ligature. Now, a ligature could be anything from a rope, a bed sheet, a bungee cord. Let's say that they're strangling their individuals. Is it the same markings on the victims? If they use a blade, is it the same wounds, the same deep wounds? Is the blade serrated? Is the blade double bladed? Is the depth on puncture the exact same way as the other victims? Gunshots. Let's say we have Son of Sam, famous serial killer in New York City who used to, they used to call him the 357 killer. So, choice of gun, you're not going to throw away a perfectly good gun, so you're going to use that same gun on different homicides. So, how close was the individual when he committed or she committed these murders? Was it up close and personal? Was it back? Was it tattooing on the body? So, tattooing occurs from gunpowder from the firearm.
Hmm.
If I shoot you at a closer distance, the black powder in the um, round, so to speak, one fired and ignited, it's going to get a pattern that looks like a tattoo. It's burn mark.
Yeah.
You'll see that on the clothing, and you'll see that through the clothing. So you'll have a pattern. You'll have the caliber size, the weapon. Was it a clean barrel, serrated barrel? So now these are all things that all add up to: is it just one killer? Is it the same killer? Can we link this killer to other killings around the United States? Because we're going to go into a data bank. One of the other things are, and I touched on this, I believe, last episode, and Danny Rollins was also famous for this. I spoke about souvenirs. Now, souvenirs can be anywhere from body parts or
Hmm.
clothing or items in the victim's residence, bedroom. So I handled one case, and it was a serial killing. And he would take trinkets from his victims' bedrooms. Now, what I mean by trinkets is exactly that: little stupid statues or whatever stupid figurines or, I don't know, little animals or stuffed animals. This individual would take them from each and every crime scene. So that was his treasures, right? He can go look at it at night. He can masturbate over looking at them because this is his treasure. When I was really young and still in uniform, 19, and I'm riding on patrol. I was on midnights, and we had to check all of your buildings in the area. So we had a new Lowe's going up, and it was just a big empty field, just a dirt field. It was midnight. I don't know, maybe 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm half asleep, and I'm drinking coffee and eating my bag of sunflower seeds and spitting them out the window to stay awake. And I got my spotlight, and I'm looking at the area to make sure we don't have any trespasses on the property. And I'm looking, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I see what appeared to be a human arm sticking out of a mound of dirt. So I'm on the horn, and it was a small department at the time, and there's only a few of us on duty. So everybody comes running out, dig up this individual, and it was a female who was still alive, believe it or not.
Oh
So
wow.
this was she was put there. I don't know, not even an hour before I decided I was going to go through there by mistake. By the way, I wasn't some, oh shit, I think there's something going on in the dirt. It's like,
Yeah,
no, I got to
it's all
stay.
random. You gotta
I got
look
to
for
stay the
stuff.
frig away. Yeah, I need somewhere to dump my sunflower seeds. Just to be honest with you, pull her out. Rescue comes. She's totally naked, missing both her nipples. So the individual who thought he had killed her was an Emory Riddle student, and he was here on visa. He was some prince's son, some bullshit. Here on visa. The reason why we found that out is because he picked her up at a local bar in Daytona called um, the Oyster Deck, which is still Oyster Pub. I'm lying to you. The Oyster Pub, which is still there, by the way. It used to be a hangout. She was a bartender. He picks her up, thinks he kills her, rapes her, dumps her in this dirt area. He takes off. We find him the next day getting on a plane to go back to the Middle East. He's claiming diplomatic immunity. Nobody really gave a shit in the day about whatever the fuck he ends up going to jail. The reason why I bring that up, and he was not a serial killer, he was a serial rapist. The reason why I bring that up is because we're talking about trophies.
Hmm.
For some reason, nipples are a prominent trophy. He did the exact same thing. The nipples was in his dorm room on campus at Emory Riddle.
Oh wow.
So now we're back to, let me fast forward to, and we can go on. I'm going to save for other episodes some other things about serial killers. I don't want to like just dump all of it on one night.
Yeah.
So these are just some of the things that we look to as investigators, and some of the other agencies that we go to for help when it comes to solving these things. And it could be pretty, it's not like pretty intricate. It's not like you watch TV and within that 45-minute period of time, I've already solved 19 serial killings. This could take years, months, years. Sometimes you stumble on it quickly. For the most part, it could take years.
Yeah.
I was assigned to cold crime homicides for a while as well. And we'll talk about cold crimes as well. So I'm hoping we're going to have our special guest next week with us. He could talk about from some of the gang homicides that he's handled from an ME's perspective, being a coroner. And then we'll hopefully, on the following episode, be able to get a friend of mine to talk about everything that goes boom. And we'll talk about mafia and gangland car bombs, which were always so prevalent.
Yeah.
Uh, I think they're cool. He could tell you every schematic there is on a car bomb. So hopefully, we'll get him in. I want to light up again. I want to talk about the cigar one more time. Before I do so, have you ever had an Anastasia by Caldwell?
Yeah. A long time ago, I've had one before.
Haven't had one. I reached out to Robert Caldwell today and I said, I never had one. I've had many of your brands before. I said, but I have to ask Shirtless Mike if he ever had one. I know he.
Yeah, I've had one a long time ago. It's on the pricier side, so I think I may have one like a long time ago.
Yeah, I stumbled across them on one of his posts that he had, and I'm like, wow, I never seen this one before. I want to try it, so I reached out to him to see if we can, you know, get him to get off his ass and come on the podcast, being that he keeps saying he's coming on. But I
Yeah,
just was curious about the Anastasia because I've never seen it before.
yeah. I don't really remember the flavor notes and all that stuff, but I believe I've had one like years ago now. So this cigar is still going strong. Still so enjoyable.
Me too. Again, my first Puerto Rican. I'm lying to you. I've been to Puerto Rico several times for work, and we used to go to this older gentleman who used to roll cigars in the street. No bands, no nothing. You got them in a plastic bag. I couldn't tell you what the wrapper was. I couldn't tell you what the filler was. I couldn't tell you what the seed was. But this is the actual first banned Puerto Rican cigar I've had. Uh, and I'm impressed. I mean, I absolutely like the flavor. It gets a little, I got to be honest though. So what starts off to be a medium smoke is
That's what,
absolutely getting heavier the more I smoke.
yeah, and then here you are talking about you can't have anything more than a medium, because of heart issues in the past. You keep it pretty mild. So
I do, but I'm enjoying it now. Am I going to end up smoking the whole cigar? Probably not. It's getting real heavy. Uh, but my buddy George was good enough to give this to me, and I told him I was going to review it only because he gave it to me and I never had one before. But I'm absolutely enjoying it. It's good with vino. You know me,
oh yeah,
me and vino.
I'm gonna have some vino on my vacation. I don't drink as often as I used to. Like it could be like months when I in between me drinking, but I enjoy some good vino.
Tonight I'm drinking a nice Merlot.
And if you
Uh,
drink a lot, it becomes a merlot.
a Merlot. So my wife was always a cab drinker, Cabernet drinker, and I told her, I said, Merlot is called the heroine of wines because it gives you that warm, fuzzy feel. I
Uh
like
huh.
the Merlot at night, like when I'm unwinding and chilling. So I like to drink a good Merlot. There's a couple of good wine bars around. I know there's a new one coming to Vieira, which I'm kind of looking forward to. We spend a lot of time in St. Augustine, so we like to go up there. Smoke Rings has a great wine section,
Yep.
and it's always enjoyable to get whatever
And
you want.
we also sell wine. When you first walk in, we got wine rack. Me and Eric built that, and it houses the wine that we sell. So
I seen that. Matter of fact, I think you pointed it out to me there because I would have walked by it, never
yeah,
had. I would
yeah,
have
we
been
got
right.
rid of the magazines, and me and
Yes,
Eric built that wine thing. And I'm not a handyman whatsoever. Eric is the one that led the way in that. I just held the pieces together while he hammered.
I got you. Yeah, yeah, I can.
So I'm proud of that. Me not being very much of a handyman, but it's a fine Italian craftsmanship.
Yeah, I've got skills. Unfortunately, it's not with a screwdriver, but you know,
What
it
are
is.
you gonna do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to all my Paisan and Gomadas, to all our fans, family, friends, thank you again for sticking with us this long. The episodes are just going to get better and better. I'll get more in depth in investigation and cases. After our little mini series on everything death, we're going to flip right around and go right back into gang infiltration, narcotics, and so on and so forth. As far as Rico is concerned, Operation Greenback, which I only topped on. So we're going to get into that as well. More special guests we're going to line up. Oh, Colwell, not for nothing. If you're watching, I'm still waiting for my package. Just saying. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
man.
All right, brother.
All right, brother.
going to say goodnight before I do. As usual, you could be at the table or you could be on the menu. God bless. We'll see you next week for episode 5. I'm going to call it our anniversary night, right? 5
Yeah.
episodes anniversary. Going to have some surprises for you. Um, Shameless plug before we hang up. Give me 1 second. So I have these old school remember locks sunglasses,
Yeah.
kind of on the bike side, kind of OG gangster looking. Currently having these made, and on the side where it says SMLF, only on ours, one side is going to say Gangsters, the other side is going to be Cigars. I'm having them made as we speak. You guys can either inbox me, you can hit us up here at our YouTube channel. They're going to be $25 plus shipping. Lettering is going to be red on these badass gangster lowrider, lean, old school, kicking it sunglasses. They look good. I know I look good. I'm sure you guys are going to look even better.
Oh
$25
yeah.
Gangster and Cigar sunglasses. T-shirts are being delivered, and we'll show you everything we have to offer next week.
Most definitely.
All right, brother. God
All
bless.
right. Oh,
Peace
and
out.
everybody out there, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave them comments and all that good stuff. Bobby, I'll let you know when we're not live so we can talk that real